Okay, welcome back to the group chat for another episode. And as you can tell, if you are watching this episode, there is no Phil in studio with me today. I'm by myself. I've got the headphones on, which means I have a special guest with me now. It'll be the first proper guest. Sorry to Goran. He was a fill-in. But yeah, I've got a man that has played 331 Premiership games in the NRL, the Storm, the Tigers, the Broncos, and the Wars. 51 tests for the Kiwis, including a World Cup win. Former captain of the Kiwis and the Māori All Stars, I believe, and he's now turned coach, podcaster, broadcaster, and involved in the NRL. Adam Blair, thank you for joining.
Charlie, it's awesome to be a part of it, bro. And thanks for the cool introduction. It's been a long time since I actually played the game of rugby league. And, you know, it's been 5 years now retired. And now on the other side, I'm just excited to where the journey ends up going for sure. But, yeah, thanks for having me, man.
No, I appreciate you being here and giving up your time. So what, 2019, you hung up the boots?
2020, end of first part of COVID, 2020. Some pretty tough times, definitely for everyone involved, not only rugby league, but life in general. And, you know, you look back on those times 5 years ago and it's a whole new world now again. And also obviously now finishing up and being on the outside, it's a lot different to playing football, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I bet. I want to get started with a little icebreaker question. And now I play cricket. That's my sport. And obviously there's a lot of sledging involved, a lot of chirping, going at each other. Now, in the league, when you were playing, and obviously being surrounded by a lot of Australians that are usually the pinnacle of sledging or shit-talking, was there much going on in the games? Or was there anyone that was the best sledger?
I think as I got older, I had little sly sledges. I wasn't real open like a lot of the other people. I think when I look back on some of my times, Matt Geyer, obviously down in Melbourne Storm, he sits backs, you know what I mean? They sit out nice and wide and they can say whatever they want. I think Matt Guy was a big sledger to his opposite man. Yeah. And then whoever carried that on, Will Chambers jumped on the back of that because Will Chambers come through that system as well. And I think, you know, typically your hookers are normally the chirpiest ones. I wouldn't say Cam Smith was chirpy, but he knew how to control a game, not only with the football, but with the refs as well. So I wouldn't say that's chirping, but that's just being real smart about what happens on the game and hops on the field. So, yeah, a lot of different chirpers on the field, but I think the main ones are normally your hookers throughout the competition.
Yeah, okay.
And because they're so small, Charlie, they become a target. They become a target, and the way you get away from a lot of stuff is talk your way out of things, and they become really good at it.
They started up and then hide behind the big boys as well.
Definitely, and the game's changed a lot from when I was playing. So no punches can be thrown. So yeah, definitely chuck it out there. I think Reid Marnie's really good at it for the Bulldogs. Chucks it out there, go hide behind your forward pack. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no doubt. The best place to hide is behind the forward pack for sure. It sounds like just the same. The hookers are the same as the halfbacks in Union, right? They
definitely.
At the back of the ruck, talk their shit, and hide behind the big fellas.
That's definitely how it works. Same in rugby league.
Yeah, I actually probably could have guessed the hookers. Is Wade Egan a bit of a shit talker?
Oh, I think Wade Egan's I think Wade Egan's quite calm. I don't know. I think when it comes to just us Kiwis in general, and I'm not putting myself in this category. Everyone's quite humble. You know what I mean? Yeah. Humble on the field, humble in the way that they play, and they kind of let their football do the talking. I'm going to say I grew up 15 years in Australia. There goes my little bit of cheekiness to the Aussies. I grew up 15 years in Australia, moved over when I was 15, played half my career and spent half my life in Australia. So that's where maybe the confidence and the chirpiness come out of me as well.
Yeah, so you got that Aussie aspect in you.
Sorry, the Aussies.
No, I think they love knowing, like, I know, especially I've been watching some of the cricket documentaries, listening to Glenn Maxwell talk about his story, and I think they love it. They embrace it, right?
Yeah.
Embrace it. They're just the shit talkers, and it's what they do.
Oh, you know, in cricket, I think there's a lot of time standing around. You have to find something to talk about, don't you?
Yeah, that's fair. You gotta entertain yourself somehow when the game's not entertaining you.
Definitely.
So you're based over in Newcastle at the moment, obviously working with the Knights.
Yeah, based over in Newcastle, moved over start of December. Took more so an opportunity to keep developing myself as a coach off field. I look after the title as a coaching director of Elite Pathways, which entitles systematically running systems from the NRL down through our pathways coaches and hopefully replicating similar drills, similar aspects to what's needed for when those kids come up into grade. So a big part of my job is to look after that. I also do some NRL groundwork with the boys. So that's depending on what days are defensive days, which is nearly every day. You spend a bit of time with those boys on the mats rolling around. And then at the same time, it's part of recruitment for our younger grades. I look after the group from 16s to 18s and go around watching a lot of footy. And what I've noticed, Charlie, over here, there's so much footy on compared to New Zealand. And if there's not a tournament on in New South Wales, there's a tournament on in Queensland. If there's not a school game on and around the corner, there's one down in Sydney. So a big part of my role is to get out and obviously be present at a lot of these carnivals because we want to put the Newcastle Knights out there and making sure that we're playing the game and we're in the game with everyone else.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, you want to make your presence felt, right? At all these carnivals and everything. Save them going off to other clubs and get them in early.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it. And I think, this new way of recruitment and, we've got a lot of younger kids getting recruited at a younger age. This year is typically targeted at those 14-year-olds turning 15. It's a crazy time because my son is actually 14 right now, and NRL clubs are targeting that age group. I know in the future that age is going to move forward and hopefully into 17s because when you look at a 14-year-old, they're not a polished athlete. There's so much development in it. There's so much work-ons. So when they get to about 17, you're starting to see some cool trends and where they are. They're developing a lot more, a bit more testosterone. They're filling into their body. So I think in the future they'll move it to a further age group, which I think is how it works and how it should work because you're signing kids at a young age of 14 and hoping that they're going to make it further on with, I guess, some of the development and some of the work that coaches put into at their clubs.
Is it one of those things where if you get in at a young age, you're in the system and you're just going to get supported right the way through? Whereas if you're, say, nowadays, if you're 18, 19, haven't cracked the code yet, you've got less of a chance of getting a look in?
I'm not saying it's over until it's over, to be honest. You've throughout my career and through the history of the game, there's players that have debuted at 26 years old or 25. I guess, what happens when you get recruited at a young age, like you just said, you get a little bit of a leg up into the system. You get a little bit more coaching development, but it doesn't mean that you've made it or you're going to be the athlete that we may see at 14 that when you hit 17 in 3 years' time of development, you may not even get to where the expectation is. So it doesn't mean if you don't get anything from 14 to 17, doesn't mean that you can't get something from 17 to 20 or 21 on. So it gives you that, I guess it gives you that extra work because you're now in a system. But it doesn't mean the guys that aren't in there, if you keep working hard and being patient, that there's still opportunities for you because you're only one game away from someone seeing you, passing your game highlights to someone else, and then it just circles in the game of rugby league. And that's how small rugby league is in Australia. I mean, when it comes to you could be in the country playing for a local team and someone circles a video of you. In rugby league, it just moves real quickly, and next minute you're signed to a club. That's how fortunate and lucky people are now in the stage with technology as well.
Wow! So if you're out of the country playing and you have a mean game and someone makes a mean mixtape of you, and you could be signed within a couple of weeks to a club.
Well, that's all it is. Is you only, and again, this is the weird game of rugby league is you're only seeing highlights. You're only seeing highlights. That's all you're seeing. So if someone sends in your son, Charlie, say you had a kid and he's playing up in somewhere down in South Island and he's carving up down there, someone just goes, geez, did you see that kid play? It circles around on social media. Some club grabs it, boom, it's in the system. The clubs will come down, start knocking on doors going, where's your son, Charlie? We need him.
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. And I guess is the age we live in where videos can just go viral overnight. So it actually doesn't surprise me if you think about it.
Yeah, well, so the thing is, Charlie, is, and this is most probably not a good way of doing it because when you go and watch your children, you want to watch them actually play footy rather than holding a screen in them and recording them. But and saying that this is the day we live in. If you're out there recording your kids and you're creating highlights, that thing can circle around. As soon as it hits the social media, people can get hold of it, and your kid's now being looked at. So yes, it's not a good way of watching your children play sports, but on the flip side, there's opportunities that can come off the back of that.
Oh, absolutely. I know there was a big one going around when I was going through school, and it was getting over to the States on like a soccer football scholarship.
Yep.
So you get all your games recorded and get a bit of a mixtape and send it off to just all the colleges that you could and try get a full ride scholarship over in the States. Yep. I think was always the goal for lots of those footy players.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Charlie, if you would have seen just recently over the weekend in rugby league, because I've got to watch a lot of local stuff as well. But the Warriors, Harold Matts, Bishop Neal puts a chip kick over back row / front row in the middle of the field, puts a chip kick over. He's most probably 100 and something kilos, big boy. Can move well, puts a chip kick over, gets the ball, regathers, scores a try in the corner post. Like that thing has circled around in Australia.
I bet.
All week, because New South Wales Rugby League share it because they're flying over into this country, playing in there. So now he's become something on, the socials. So this is what can happen. You're one game away from getting recognised that, hey, he's going to be a superstar, or hey, this is what he could do. Let's try and find out where this kid is. So there's always plenty of opportunities, and more so now.
And obviously, like you said, at that age, they're pretty unpolished. They're just very raw. And you get them in early, you've got more chance to actually work with them, progress them, and turn them into more of a polished product by the time they reach the league, right?
And definitely, and that's a big part of, I guess, pathways and development. And as myself coaching the coaches and actually making sure the details right, so everyone can be good attackers. Defense is hard. Defense is an attitude. Defense is a commitment. There's little things that we can all be better at. The coaches' jobs around finding these kids and giving them that tools and I guess the detail to make sure that they can progress through the grades and then into obviously becoming a professional athlete at their highest level.
Yeah. So, Adam, when you were starting off, obviously talking about all this pathway system, we'll touch on your career just quickly. When you started off, did you go through these pathway systems as well with the Storm, obviously the first team you were involved in, or?
Oh yeah, well, Charlie, I was very lucky at a young age, and like when I talk about country, I was brought up in the country in New Zealand, far north Hokianga. There's not much going on up there, so to be able to get recognised, our closest town is Whangarei. So Whangarei was our place where we got to, still 2.5 hours from where I lived. But if we wanted to get recognised, that's where we had to go to be able to get looked and seen. Back then, social media wasn't as big. You're not posting up videos. You're actually supporting your children and trying to give them the best opportunity. And that's what my parents gave for me and my grandparents. So I come from up north and come through a system down in Whangarei, played Whangarei boys, first 15 rugby. Always been a rugby lover, loved playing it as a kid, never played rugby league until I actually played 3 games of league in Auckland for Hibiscus Coast. And we took a team over to Sydney. Sydney got picked up from there, played Parramatta, Penrith. Peter O'Sullivan, who was a recruitment officer at the Storm at the time, recruits me, signs me to Melbourne Storm. I go over to Wavell Heights, which is a school in Brisbane, a really good league school. I go there for my last year of schooling. I go through all their schooling system where it comes. And over here, another big shock that I already knew, but rugby league is a subject over here. It's been a subject from day one. So you go to school, you're learning about the game of rugby, you're learning nutrition, you're learning how to strength and conditioning, you're learning how to run beat tests or Broncos that they run. So all those things are in your subject at school. So you're learning at a real young age. So I went from there. I would have played most probably between school rugby, club rugby, and representative stuff. There would have been at least, up to 50 games for the year for a young 16-year-old. So my time in rugby league was really created when I hit Australia, went to Wavell, learned all the systems and details, pretty much what everyone's trying to do now, and then got moved down to Melbourne Storm in 05 and started and debuted in 06, and the career just goes on from there.
Wow, that's crazy that it's like a subject at school, and that's how big it is for Aussie schoolboys over there. 'Cause you don't hear a lot about league. Well, down in Wellington, we don't at a schoolboy level at all. It's all first 15 rugby. Like you said, you were playing first 15 rugby, and then I guess it's guys get just picked up from that. If there's like again, it must be clips and stuff of like a first 15 schoolboys game that the clubs must see. So. Crazy that's like that over in Aussie.
It's another world, and like I said, Charlie, there's so much rugby league on in Australia. It actually opened my eyes up to how much football like we don't see when we were living in Australia, in New Zealand. Like all rugby league people don't see that from being in New Zealand. Like over here, there's so much going on, and there's so much more kids because there's so much more opportunities. And a lot of our Maori Pacifica families are now migrating over here at a younger age or earlier for more better opportunities, not only for themselves but their kids. And they're falling into the system, and then the next generations of families are having more kids, and it's, mate, if I go through all the pathways and just of recent, I go through, especially those West teams.
Yeah.
I saw a Parramatta team a couple of weeks ago come up against our Newcastle team, and they were in the under-17s. I couldn't spot the Australian kid. Because there was so much more Maori, Pacifica, Indigenous players on the field. But if you think about the game and where it's heading, in 10 years' time, I definitely think that's what it's going to be like anyway. It's going to be something similar, I feel, to the NFL, where it's got a lot of, Pacifica people playing the game.
Right. Yeah. Well, it makes sense, and it's a great opportunity for the cultures and everything over there to be a part of it, right? It's massive for them.
Definitely, and that's what it is. It's opportunities, it's family opportunities, it's work opportunities, and then they end up just getting stuck here because they're enjoying it so much that they're getting looked after. They have more kids, and then it's just reproducing everything else, and then they're staying over here, and there's so many of them, which is cool because I guess what I like is similar to what obviously I'm doing now is chasing opportunities to be better or chasing opportunities to develop, and this is what everyone else is doing as well.
Yeah, well, like it's just plenty more opportunities than you would get here in New Zealand.
Definitely.
So it definitely makes sense. And if they're getting a much better lifestyle and it's just rugby league breeding grounds over there, you might as well get amongst it, right?
Definitely personal preference. If families want to move over, that's up to them. But like always, there's always opportunities in New Zealand. Obviously, the Warriors have their pathways. And I guess from my time down there, always encourage kids, parents, families to choose the Warriors first. And if they didn't, then there was always another opportunity outside of that place. So obviously creating more pathways over in New Zealand at the moment, the Warriors are, and they've got all their grades in now in NRLW. So kids and parents don't actually have to leave anymore. But if they do, hey, the Newcastle Knights are here for you.
Knights are here. And
hey, I won't say my number, but if they go on the Newcastle Knights website, they'll find my email and they can hit me up. I got them.
Nice. How much have you seen of like the Auckland FC team? Because obviously with just the Wellington Phoenix being in the A League, the footballing opportunities in New Zealand has grown massively with the addition of Auckland FC. Would the new addition of Papua New Guinea into rugby league, do you think New Zealand there's a space for a second team, maybe down in Christchurch at some stage?
Yes, I love the competitiveness, and it was always going to be like that, wasn't it, Charlie? If a new team in New Zealand was going to come in, you wanted to hit the ground running and get all the buy-in, not only from the fans but the club, and all the expectation that they've been able to create now is now becoming a reality. I think, what do they sit at the top on 8 points clear or 6 points clear, and it's a top of the table battle. Is it Adelaide they're playing against?
Yeah, Adelaide this weekend.
So they're playing against Adelaide. Obviously, they cleaned up the Phoenix on the weekend, but it's actually a real feel-good story. It kind of reminds me of the 2023 season of the Warriors. Is they just went from good and just kept going high and rode that wave for as long as they could in 2023. I feel like Auckland FC is doing the same thing. I feel like if you want to make the Warriors competitive, challenge them in their own backyard. That's what you've got to do. Exactly what the FC are doing is they're challenging the Phoenix to actually go one better. And I think, like anything, competition is only the best medicine to compete and to make people better or make clubs or businesses better. If you don't have competition, you sit and you get comfortable in your space. So I definitely think with obviously PNG coming in, obviously Perth's always been a conversation, obviously New Zealand's been a conversation. There's definitely space to be rolling out another team, more so for the competitiveness, I think. And, Auckland FC showing how much it does and it can have an effect on what happens.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, the talking points down here, and we're lucky enough with Betcha to be a part of the Rivals
Definitely.
and it has been unreal to be a part of. It's been so good. But just the talk around, like the Derby game, the guys there, Goran and Courtney, were
Yeah.
asking Phoenix fans whether or not the Phoenix get knocked out, will they then jump ship and support Auckland through the finals? Not to say you're giving up on the Phoenix.
Yeah.
And lots of them, to my
Why
surprise,
wouldn't you?
yeah, well, jumped on it, and they were like, "It's great for New Zealand football." At that point, it's New Zealand versus the world, and
Definitely.
it's so good to see.
And that's how it should be. I think it's like anything. Obviously I watch rugby, but when the All Blacks are on the world stage, you're supporting New Zealand. When the Sevens are on, even though I don't take too much notice of the Sevens, but it's a New Zealand team. If it's cricket, New Zealand, and they're taking on the world, just supporting them. And I feel like that's a prime example of, fans loyal to our country. You know what I mean? You can be loyal to your club, loyal to your team, but when your team's not there, it's like jumping on your second team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's a feel-good story as well. And I feel like obviously Auckland FC are going to be there at the end and competing, and so will the whole of New Zealand.
Yeah, I think they're going to ride that train with them. Speaking of riding the trains, did you have anything that you rode throughout your career, like a career best, like a purple patch or favourite moments? Obviously, there's that World Cup win with the Kiwis and whatnot. Did you have something that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, I think, I was really young when we played in that World Cup, and most probably just took a lot for granted. I did play a lot of, most probably took the Storm for granted as well when we played a lot of finals football with them, because we were so consistent at playing finals football. When I left there, I was like, geez, I'm not going to get back there again. But I think the most memorable one for myself, and this is most probably not a memorable one for the team, but the 2015 grand final, Brisbane Broncos, Cowboys, most probably the most memorable grand final for myself and my favourite one, although we didn't win. But I guess being a little bit older and embracing the occasion, and I think this is most probably the most important part of it when you're a footballer, is that this game is not another game. And when coaches say we're just going to play another game, this is the grand final. So I felt like I embraced it for what it was and just let my emotions be and actually go where it took me. If it took me into celebrating, the training session, or celebrating some fans, or you jumping on the plane and getting down to Sydney, I just let it all go. And I felt like in the past, I was mostly a little bit more tensed in those moments, and just kind of was like, this is not my routine. I don't normally do this. And I feel like it's all different on grand final day. It's all different on grand final week. Nothing's the same. The week's not the same. And when coaches say that, it's the same training sessions, we're just doing it here and there, it's not. It's a grand final week. And then you go out on grand final day, and for myself at that time, Brisbane Broncos, 2 Queensland teams going at it, man, it was most probably one of the most memorable moments. The game went down to the wire. We should have won. We didn't win. We kick it off. Ben Hunt drops the ball. We go down there. And even in those moments, there was no thought in my mind that we were going to lose the game. No thought, man. I thought we were that good through the year, that confident in ourselves that we could stop JT from getting a drop kick. And I think that's having a really good belief in your systems and structures, but having trust in the players around you. Yes, JT's a freak and come away with the win. And I guess I wasn't upset at the end of the game, because it was one of those games you want to be involved in. So although we didn't get the result, I got to play along some of my best mates, who are still my best mates now, and create good memories throughout the year with them. But then I got to be on grand final day, where some players don't even get a chance to even see grand final day or even grand final week. So emotionally, a moment I reflect back on and just think to myself, how good was it being there in that moment, playing in that grand final and standing there at the end, having disappointment, but thinking, man, that's how you want to play a grand final.
It's pretty special to be a part of a moment, a week like that. Well, like you said, you're playing with your best mates on the biggest stage you could be on, and to be a part of such a special game as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's That's a pretty good moment to have. And to be able to reflect on that like you have. Yeah, you lost, but the disappointment of it, and like you said, you matured a little bit, but a little bit older, so you can take it all in rather than what was it,
Mm.
2007 and 2009 with the Storm.
I think 2009 we won it. Obviously, you can put a little asterisk next to it because it got taken away for you for the salary cap stuff. 2007, I wasn't a part of it. 2006, we lost to the Broncos. But when you quickly just going on their Broncos 2006 story, if you go back and look at their team, they were, an unbelievably stacked Queensland team. Like, they were unbelievable. Brad Thorne's last game, I forgot to play against him.
That's
Petro, Webkey, they had some crazy players in their team. And I was 21 years old thinking, I didn't even know who these people are really, because I was a kid from New Zealand just trying to give it a go. And when I reflect back on, I see their team, I'm like, man, I got to play against like some legends in the game for Queensland. Lockyer was playing then too. Like, it was crazy when I look at their team.
Yeah, some absolute studs, and you're 21 playing on the biggest stage you could be on in the career that you chose. And wow, I sometimes think, and you mentioned like the NFL earlier, but lots of those guys are coming straight out of college and into the NFL. You see 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds. I mean, Cooper DeJean for the Eagles, 22 years old. It was his birthday on the Super Bowl, having a pick six. And it's like some of the most amazing things can happen at so young in your career as well.
Well, I guess the main thing, Charlie, is like, as well as obviously hard work, being patient becomes a big part of your journey as well. And like you just said, like, there are young kids now playing against some of their idols. And while we're talking about it, and you just said the NFL stuff, Māori All Stars, Kalen Ponga, Keanu Kinney, like, Kalen's at the top end of his game. Keanu Kinney's two, maybe 3 years into his NRL career. His first year of starting at fullback last year, gets to come into camp. I put him together, and I'm just like, man, this is a match made in heaven. Like, these two guys, he's about to start his journey of NRL, Keanu Kinney, and you've got Kalen Ponga, who is an absolute superstar over here. Yeah. You put them together, and that was Keanu's idol. Like, that was Keanu's idol. And these are the things that I guess people don't really understand from the outside looking in, that although they would not, with this All-Stars game, they don't get those opportunities like that, boys, to play with someone that they idolized growing up. And this is what that can create. And I'm so grateful that I'm a part of that All-Stars camp and being their coach and being able to create these moments and memories for a lot of our players. But that's one that will stick out for me forever. And I just can't wait to see both of these players just go real high-end elite athletes this year.
Who was your like icon or legend that you looked up to? So if you played with or played against someone that you had on your poster on your wall or something?
Well, I didn't have a league favorite growing up because I didn't watch too much league. But as I got into, so as a rugby player, Zinzan Brook was always my idol. I ended up playing. I started as a fullback as a young kid. Moved myself into the middle of the park because it was just getting boring out wide, not touching the ball, not getting in your head into racks and moors and all those kind of things. Yeah. And then come across Zinzan Brook, and I ended up finishing off as a number 8. I played 6, 7, and 8, and he was my idol. And ever since he kicked that 50-meter drop kick, even more so, idolized him even more. I moved forward into rugby league, and the one person that kind of I wanted to simulate my game around was Stephen Kearney. And very lucky that when I went to Melbourne Storm, he was our assistant coach down there. I guess he was Kiwi, he was Māori, he was my connection to home. So lent on him a lot around, I guess, first and foremost, not to be homesick, but also to learn the game of rugby league. And then got to go on a bit of a journey with Mooks and, play for the Storm with them, for the Kiwi system, and then at the Warriors. So someone that I spent a lot of time with and still do through the Kiwi space and still stay connected with him because a lot of his attributes I try to carry with me in my game with his footwork, his offload, the hidden spin, and just his professionalism as well.
What's it been like being back with the Māori All Stars and coaching that? You said you love putting people together and making those connections, having those memories. I mean, young kid with their icon, it must be pretty cool to be playing and putting that stuff together.
Yeah, well, I think that the most important thing for me, and I guess I played in the All Stars, and I know how much that meant to me as a player.
Mm.
So now that I'm on the other side, I want to give that same feeling to our players, especially that live in Australia. Very grateful and for myself of where I grew up. And the far north, and my culture was at the forefront. But when I left home, and I say this to a lot of people, the one regret I have was is leaving my culture at the door and trying to fit into a culture that was unfamiliar to myself. So I feel like a lot of our players feel that way. And what I want to do is, and moving forward and keeping obviously this tradition, this game going, is to keep creating opportunities for our Maori players to feel comfortable in who they are, to be proud of who they are, whether they were born in Australia or not. They still have Maori blood in them. And if I look at the team that I had this year, I selected Kurt Moran, and when I look at him by the end of our week, he was as Maori as I was. He was as Maori as I was, and this is that makes me proud when someone comes in and they're unsure of who they are. But
Mm.
you put them into this environment around other people that are on some sort of journey, including myself. They grow into someone else. They grow into
Yeah.
someone else, and the space allows them to go off into wherever they need to go when they're in this space, but they can feel comfortable in being Maori for a week and then try and take that with them on their journey into life. And if somewhere in this week that they find something that was missing pre coming in, then hopefully it's our connection to our people and connection to our home. And it's a place of purpose. It's a place of, I guess, reconnecting. It's a place of journey. And without this game, I feel like we do miss a lot of our Aussie Maori players here
Mm.
that don't really connect with their culture. So I know that the game's going to continue it. Where they put it is up to them because the schedule is chock-a-block. There's that much footy on now. The rounds are 27. There's Origin, there's International, there's Pacific. So they hopefully can find a space for it. And I just want to be a part of the journey because I love seeing, I guess, the journey when they're in there to when they finish. And then when they go out and tell their stories to the other Māori kids.
Yeah, so it's more than just that week of rugby league with the boys, right? It's actually about spreading everything and having your connections, and after that week as well, it's
Yeah.
spreading the message
Well,
and all that sort of jazz.
you would have saw, most probably if you didn't, but there was a lot of social media around, I guess, us singing songs, which is normal back home. Us doing haka, our women doing songs, our women doing haka. We spent a lot of time this time around on connecting, and not only connecting with our females, but connecting with our culture.
Mm.
The result looks after itself. The game plays itself, but what we create in the week is what we showcase during the week, and then we showcase it on the weekends. And those are the moments that you'll never get back again because you don't know what's going to happen next year. I may not have the same players involved, and people may come and go. But what always remains the same is who we are as people in our culture and what we represent. So we put a lot of work into culture during the week, and
Mm.
and when I say work, it's when we do it, it doesn't feel like it is because that's who we are.
Yeah.
And I embrace that because I encourage our players to embrace it because now that I live in Australia, I don't want to make that same mistake as I did when I was a 15-year-old. I want to be proud of who I am. I want to make sure I keep encouraging our people over here, our players, our Māori kids growing up to be proud and to have a voice. And now that I'm sitting in Australia, there is no way that I'll allow, me to not be proud of our culture and be a voice for our people.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to you there, it sounds like it's one of your biggest things or one of your biggest learnings from your career that you want to pass on and help the
Definitely.
younger generation is bring that culture with you. Don't lose who you are. And if you have, then you're there to kind of help bring it back,
Definitely.
that connection, bringing that connection back for them.
For sure, Charlie, for sure.
Hey, I think the All Stars was an unreal thing. And obviously you said the weekend, the result takes care of itself, and it definitely took care of itself. Unreal game. Thoughts on the overall game, how it played out?
Oh, man. Yeah, one by moments, pretty much. You can have all the structure, you can have all the game plan, you can have the best players on the field, or you can have a half decent team. When you put the jersey on, whether you're Maori or Indigenous, it doesn't matter how much NRL experience you have got, because what it shows is what the result was when we played that result. It's the team, and I'm saying both teams went out. What was it? 0-0 at half time. There's 4 20-minute quarters, and it's just hell for leather, putting pride and mana on the jersey pretty much. And we try to move the ball, we try to play some shape, we play some structure. Our middles were strong with their carries. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you put on. It's just who wants it the most and who wants to represent their people the most. And I
Yeah.
think, the way you can, I guess, shape that week is around, I guess, your languaging. And as a coach, and myself and Blake Green and have given, I guess, we've gone back through our time, especially last year, and really looked at our languaging and how we gave, I guess, our strength and our mana and our spirit to our players. And I'm very lucky that old Blake Kakariki has had some time in New Zealand, so understands our culture a bit and how it works, and he's real comfortable in that space. And then I add Ezra Howen, who's at one of the Gold Coast Titans recruitments, who's got Cook Island and Māori connections. And between the three of us and our staff and even our cultural advisors, we created I guess, a mindset of ruthlessness and, I guess, warriors, and how we grew up as Māori people. And we really honed into the battle mindset of having no regrets or being ruthless with every action. And I feel like when you watch some of those actions on the game, I felt like it kind of tipped them over to what we created during the weekend. And I guess that's what that game is. It's a game of passion, it's a game of pride, and it's a game of people. And both teams went after it, and loved the result because it just ties in our week. It just ties in the week. It just fulfills the week of what we created, and then you get the result because of the creation that we created during the weekend. The boys go away with a smile on their face, they go back to their clubland, and they go back a better player, definitely.
Yeah, just the little cherry on top coming away with that win. I love the relentlessness and the warriors that you created for that. Let's move to Vegas, Adam. What do you think of the whole Vegas kick off to the season? If you were a player, would you like to be going over and being involved with it, or not your cup of tea as a player?
Yeah, I think if I was a player, definitely, because that's part of your job, isn't it? It's still round one at the end of the day. It's still round one. You still got to go over there. You still got to get the win. It's a long way to go to go and get your first win. There's obviously a lot of preparation that has to go with it, both on and off the field as a club. And, there's a lot of travel. But at the end of the day, when you think about the game and what it's supposed to create, I guess, for the players, for the club, is to go over there, get the 2 points. I think, the NRL, the game has continued to grow this game. It's going to be there for the next 3 years after this one. They said they signed a 5-year contract. It's only going to get bigger and better again the previous year. Other teams are going to get opportunities to go showcase their skills on the big stage. And I guess he's I guess the big boys, Abdo and those boys are just, I guess, business minded. And I think there was a lot of stats that come out during last week or the week before about how much money they're creating in revenue, and they're the number one sports over here in Australia when it comes to what they've been able to show. And it's crazy where the game's going to head in 10 years' time. Not only, like I said, there's going to be a lot more Māori, Pacific, and Indigenous people in the game, but the game's going to be worldwide spread. It's, like we said, it's going to go to PNG soon. It's hopefully going to be in New Zealand. It's going to be in Perth. There's even talk they might buy the Super League. So
Really?
you get into the Super League and you buy that, the NRL, the game changes again. And Vegas just adds, I guess, the cherry on top when they start fine-tuning how that works. And I guess the main focus for teams is to go over and get the 2 points.
Absolutely. I mean, Because there's some Super League teams over there this year, right? As
I
well
think
as
it's St. Helens and Warrington, Sam Burgess's team. I've
right.
heard obviously big Sam Burgess can't get his visa sorted out, so he might be sitting at home watching it, but which is not ideal as your head coach sitting at
No.
home and allowing everyone else to go. But I guess these are those obstacles that Vegas toss up alongside obviously getting everything else over there and sorted and cameras and crews and people and players and clubs.
Yeah.
There's visas.
It sounds
So,
like a massive job. There's the visa.
So if you've had some trouble in the past, if you're not got a clean slate, there may be a chance that you may not get over there.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty tough place to get into the States if you
You
run.
know what? Maybe that's why you didn't get over there, Charlie. You're not telling everyone what you got.
Yeah, no, I'll keep that slate clean up. We'll get Mitch James over from Betcha. Well, I think he's going anyway, but he's going to do a bit of work for us.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we'll keep my record clean, hopefully.
Right.
Did you see the clip of SJ serving the food on the plane over?
Definitely, I saw that. I what I do like, and I reckon this was played up to the media that he didn't go left, he went right. SJ is the prince. He is the prince, and SJ normally gets what he wants. Maybe that was cut out later, and they just put that in. But it's things that when you think about Sean Johnson and what he's done for the game, not only for the Warriors, New Zealand, and a little bit of his time at the Sharks, just giving back a little bit of time to the fans and the people is a cool little thing to be able to show. It's and I think through his whole career and even at the back end of his career, he did say what he was going to miss the most was running out to the fans and to the people. And this is a little thing that he's done for the fans on the plane, and it's cool. Like these things will be memories for a lot of those people on the plane. They're going over to support, whether it's the Warriors or everyone else. They're going over to support the game of rugby league, and they get handed out food from also Sean Johnson.
Oh, they'll be telling all their mates that SJ just gave him our food on the plane. No big deal.
He would have had that many photos. I don't know if he would have even got to sleep on the plane because they would have been just hounding him all the time.
My question is, did he do all the servings or did he just do the one like dinner serving, the chicken, or is he working as a flight attendant the whole way over?
Nah, I reckon he's done the dessert. I reckon he's just done the dessert. Like if you had a choice, Charlie, I think even just handing out the lollies at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, the lollies would be a good one. You just there and you're at the end.
You know how they normally get the little kids? Is that embarrassing for Sean Johnson though if he's giving out the lollies? Normally they just give it to the smallest kid.
Hey, SJ, you can be the little kid for the day.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's go into round one then. We'll do a quick overview. I've just got all the games. I just want to hear like quick thoughts on who you got winning. If you've got a winner, if not, maybe just any thoughts on what they've got. So obviously Raiders, Warriors, first game in Vegas. What are we thinking, Adam?
If I'm just going off purely trial form, and I know that we're early in the season, no one's actually played a game yet. Purely trial form, I think the Warriors will get the job done over in Vegas. Obviously, there's a little bit of noise in the background with those Vegas boys for the Raiders getting in a bit of trouble. Not one wanting to sleep in his mate's room and his mate not wanting to do it in their lifts. So I don't know what happened over there, but I just think purely off trial form, the Warriors have looked really good, and I think if they can continue their trial form into round one in Vegas, I think they get the job done against the Canberra Raiders.
And obviously Fisher Harris will be
Definitely
a huge part of it.
I like their makeup of their team at the minute. I think the biggest thing what they struggled with in 2024 was, I guess, a lot of injuries to key players. If they can keep their best side on the field, they definitely will be challenging most teams for that top 8 position for sure.
All right. Let's go Panthers, Sharks. The Sharks get the first bite at the reigning champs.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an upset. I think I like the Sharks. I like what they did over the trials. I also like their middles. They've added Fanua Blake into their team, and both him and Tom Hazelton can score points close to the line. Those guys will be enormous this year if they can get Nico Hines firing. They've got some great outside backs, some great back rowers. Britton Nakota is a really good back rower. And I think to start the season, they'll come out of the blocks again on the back of their trial form. I feel like they have the leg up here going after the Panthers team. But understanding the Panthers are a great system team. They know what their systems are. Nathan Cleary's in there. And if we can steer those guys around, there's no doubt that they can get a win. But for me, I'm going to throw it out there, get an upset round one straight away.
Wow, Penrith, I've just checked now the odds, $1.65 favourite. So
there you go.
He's been the first round upset. I like to hear that. It's good. It's what we need, the content, Adam.
Well, there you go. But that's me thinking, like, if I look through their squad and I feel like they've got a strong squad this year. It's Sharks. They're always competitive. Nathan, and I guess he's a professional athlete. He hasn't played any trial form. Liam Martin hasn't played. They'll be trying to find some connections. And most of those teams that are playing this weekend have had their best team trial for that last week. I know this is rugby league, and I know those guys can still do it, the Penrith Panthers, but I feel like the consistency and the trial form through the Sharks is going to be enormous.
Right, let's go Roosters Broncos.
Well, these ones are a little bit harder, Charlie, because they're a week later. You know what I mean? So the teams,
it's going to be hard without a team
that we imagine that they could be different come round one for them. Who did you say? Sorry.
It's Roosters Broncos.
See, I've got the Roosters, and this is a big statement. This is a big statement, and this is what you want, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah.
I've got the Roosters getting wooden spoon this year. I've got the Roosters getting wooden spoon this year, and this is purely, again, we haven't seen the ball kick off. There is no games that been played, purely because of, I guess, the amount of high-end elite athletes that they've lost. Joseph Manu Soali'i, Kiri's gone to the UK, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves. And if you look at the experience that they have on the field, there's not much when it comes to the Roosters, and it's not a typical Roosters side. You could look at their side in 2024 and go, man, on paper, these are a premiership winning team. But when I watched their trial form and the inexperience that they had on the field, I thought, man, maybe they may fall down the bottom this year. That's me having a wild guess. And then I think, in this game, I think the Broncos are going to be too strong. Same thing, trial form purely. And this is going to be a lot of my answers, Charlie, is that the Broncos, on the back of the magical Madge Maguire, sprinkling a little bit of magic and hard work over these boys, watching that trial match, they're up to, and I guess hopefully for the Broncos, they don't run out of steam in the back half of the year because they've just been hammered through the preseason. But they'll start fast, they'll start hard like they always do, and I think they'll come away with a strong victory.
Yeah, okay. Well, Broncos $1.45 favourite, Roosters $2.70. Just quickly, Suaalii, what have you made of him heading over to Union and having his impact in the Union game?
Yeah, what I think, he was always a rugby union player. He come over to league for the Rabbitohs back in the day. I think he was 17. They quickly rushed him into rugby league and got an exemption when he turned 18 or just before 18 because you weren't allowed to play until you're 18. So he's had a pretty fast-track career into rugby league, represented Origin, Samoa International, obviously the Roosters, and now obviously going back to the game that he grew up playing. He's an athlete. He's an absolute dynamite of a player. He's athletic. He competes. He's tough. He can beat defenders one-on-one. So I think if anyone was going to kick on through obviously his upbringing through rugby union, this guy is going to be a superstar. He'll be a superstar. He's played for Australia already. They fast-tracked him into there. Yeah. He's a special talent.
I'll give Australia credit there. They're pretty good at making superstars out of players, and I feel like they've done that with Suaalii for sure.
Definitely.
The Tigers, are they going to be better this year, or are they falling short in game one against your Knights?
Well, our mighty Knights, I think they're going to be better this year, the West Tigers. And I guess for me, it's, for Benji Marshall, I'm thinking about the Kiwi connection we have here, and I definitely want to see them do better in previous years, but I think their squad's a lot more settled. They've had, for Benji, his third year in there involved. You can start to see some of his I guess his selections coming in now, his recruitment and the people that he wants. So he's not left with players that he didn't want in the past. He's starting to get some. They've got some great young talent, young kids coming through. Their forwards are young. But I'm not going to go against our Newcastle Knights boys, man. We have had an outstanding preseason, just like everyone else would say. The boys are fit, they're firing, and I just like, again, we look at our two trials, weren't the best in trial one, but we add some additions to our boys off the back of some experience and some elite players off the back of some all-stars work and some guys sitting on the sidelines. And hence why I spoke about the Roosters. Our boys went after the Roosters with a little bit more of a steely intent focus. And I think we're going to be in for a big year. I think the Newcastle Knights are going to be in for a big year. And I know everyone will be asking, who's going to be the halves, and they had 7 different combinations. But I think consistency with everything is obviously the key to success. And you keep your best players on the field. Man, someone like Fletcher Sharp, who's looking sharp, is going to have an outstanding year at 6. So I'm excited to see what Newcastle bring this year. And I think they'll get away with their first win nice, fast. It's going to be tough, Campbelltown. In Campbelltown. They're going to have to take the game to the West Tigers for sure.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you went with the Knights there. Dolphins versus the Bunnies, 4 games to go.
This one's mostly a toss of the coin because I don't know who they're going to pick or what teams they're going to go with here. Dolphins. I like the Dolphins because similar to, I guess, the Broncos, they've got some real fast, athletic, and they try and play a similar style to the Brisbane Broncos. I feel like they've got some great players all over the park. If you can get, obviously, Cody Nikodema firing and their halves working together with Jeremy Marshall-King, they are going to be a tough team. And they started, obviously, 2024 real fast and sitting at the top of the ladder and then fell off when they had a couple of injuries. So the problem for the Dolphins this year will be if they have injuries, like most teams, is that they don't have too much experience to back it all up. So I reckon they're going to go up against a Wayne Bennett side who obviously knows what he's going to come up against. And typically for Wayne Bennett's side, first 5 or even 10 rounds, it's just complete your sets high, kick to the corner, make your tackles. It's a boring style of football, but when you're trying to work out your combinations come round 1 and round 2, round 3, round 4, you want to be real simple with all those things. So I think, the Dolphins will come away. He'll want a big, Wolfie will want to get a win against Wayne, and so will the players, and Wayne will be the same. So bit of a rivalry match straight up off the bat, I reckon, for the coaches more so than anything.
Yeah, so we're leaning Dolphins in that one.
We're going Dolphins up against Wayne Bennett's Bunnies.
I know you said that obviously a week out for some of these games we don't know the squads, but I'm going to take your word for these and do a little head-to-head multi when we get.
Let's go.
We'll get that going. What have we got? Dragons, Bulldogs.
Dragons, Bulldogs. You know what? When you think about the Bulldogs, this is me telling stories. When you think about the Bulldogs and their awesome rise in 2024. But when you think about it now, they've got Serrato, who's been there. I think this is his 5th year. He's now starting to build a team around, I guess, his consistent traits. And what they're trying to create is obviously tough, hardworking, trustworthy players on the field. They don't have the biggest squad, and everyone knows that. Hence why they're stealing Leo Thompson from the Newcastle Knights. Just throwing that one out there too, Charlie.
I like the big. It's good.
But I feel like with, I guess, their attitudes and the way that they play, they're gonna be a tough team to beat come I guess this season. But you look at the form of what the Dragons have. They got Clint Gustafson that's pulled up into there, who just drives leadership, that just drives standards. You've got Damien Cook, who's a world-class 9. And then you've got some outside backs who are young, exciting. I just think when it comes to winning games, defense is key, and I think the Bulldogs are going to be too strong defensively.
All right, I'll lock the Bulldogs in at $1.50. So we're rocking off the favourites there. We've got 2 games left. Manly versus the Cowboys.
Manly and the Cowboys, man, it's experience versus much will be quite a younger Cowboys side. Just if I think off the top of my head, just purely on trials and who they've played and where they've put them. Manly, Cherry Evans, I think a lot of those boys didn't play the last trial. I think they had about 6 or 7 of their older guys most experienced players sitting on the sideline. And if you've got a team with Cherry Evans in, whether it's Queensland, Australia, or the Seagulls, he knows how to turn games on its side real quickly. Exciting thing for the Cowboys. Drinkwater, his trial form was outstanding. A lot of the things happen around Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Their forward pack's going to have to stand up. Big Griffin Neem, our fellow Kiwiman's going to have to come out of the blocks this year. I thought on the back of his Pacific Nations games for the Kiwis, thought he was outstanding. He's in for a big year, but I think that the opposition will be too strong for them here.
Alrighty, we'll lock that in. And then finally, capping off the round next Sunday, the 9th, I believe, of March. Already 9th of March. It'll be the Storm versus the Eels to cap things off.
Yeah, I think when you talk about grudge matches, coaching grudge matches, you got the coach from Parramatta who was at the Melbourne Storm, and so when it comes to those things, they know each other's game inside and out, or the way they coach, because he's taught the Melbourne Storm, he's now teaching in the Parramatta Eels. I think, when you look at, and I guess the betting will say that the Melbourne Storm, I think they're 26 straight wins round one. 26 straight wins round one. There is no way you can bet against the Melbourne Storm when it comes to round one games. They haven't lost a game since forever. What's that, 26 years? Wow, that is unbelievable. I think they're going to be too strong. Hopefully, like you said, we can't see the team. Pappenhausen didn't play trials. I think he was out. Jerome Hughes. But as long as they've got, obviously, Pappenhausen, Munster, Jerome Hughes, and Harry Grant in the middle of the park, they are always going to be threat. I can't wait to see Stefano debut for the club over there and see what he can bring this year. He's going to go to another level, I think, when it comes to where he takes his game, being down there. They've got some great outside backs, got some big back rowers. So exciting times for a lot of those players at the Melbourne Storm. But I think the Melbourne Storm are going to be too good on round one for the Parramatta Eels.
Pretty hard to argue with 26 consecutive round one wins. I mean, I was yet to be even thought about at that stage. So I've put that multi together, Adam. We're getting $47.13 for your round one prediction. So I like that. I like Beautiful. It a lot. I'll place that on my account. We'll follow it, and I'll check back in next week. But awesome, I do appreciate that. I know, obviously, you're around the game a whole lot, and you can tell just the way you talk about these things. And you've probably just scratched the surface on all the teams from your knowledge. But anyone that is listening out there was probably going to take a lot from that, and some good betting insights too as well. If you are looking at those games, looking to have a bet. So I do appreciate that.
Can't wait to see, I guess, kids like our new stars come on the field for all teams. Can't wait to see where our next best athlete comes out, our next, Benji Marshall, or your next Sualii, or your next Joey Manu. Those are the most exciting things, because trials give you a little bit of insight to some of those young players coming through. But when you start the season, and as the season gets on, you see some of these young stars arise. And that Rookie of the Year trophy, that'll be an entertaining one too. I think there'll be some good rookies this year that come out of the blocks and make a big mark in the game of NRL.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's move on to this weekend then. Obviously, we've got a big weekend of sport. There's the Rugby League kicking off on Sunday in Vegas. We've got Auckland FC. The Hurricanes versus Blues is a big one in the Super Rugby, obviously Super Rugby round 3. The Black Caps versus India in the ICC Champions Trophy. And a pretty average UFC fight night. Are you into any of those, or locking in for the league on Sunday?
Oh, I think I will lock in for the league, but I like every sport, Charlie. If I end up flicking the channel and there's a New Zealand team on, I'm definitely supporting our New Zealand teams. And although it's for cricket, it's a tough time against India, but we go after, like everything we do, we support our Kiwis and we back them. And game of the UFC, I always obviously like supporting our Kiwi fighters, but if we don't have anyone in there, it doesn't stand out, then I don't take too much notice. But when our Kiwi fighters are on, we're all in supporting our Kiwis.
The UFC is so good to get around, eh? And
Definitely.
Up in Auckland, the CKB fellas, that
definitely. Well, those are our fellow Kiwimans, and that's what we do. Like we said earlier in the chat about DFC in Wellington. When one team wins, we all win as a country, and it's the same as UFC, and that's what it's been like for a long time for us. So I'm excited for what's next for our Kiwi fighters. Can't wait to keep supporting them as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, we've got Navajo, Aaron, and Carlos Olberg, who I've met recently as well. Such massive, such a good bloke, though, and just chowing down steaks when he was at Tyler Street Sports Bar for UFC.
Yeah, they're freaks.
Yeah, I know, unreal. I think he was in camp, so he was only having steaks and burgers and, Jesus. Anyway, let's do the punting. So Phil and I, we've got our competition. I'm focusing on the Super Rugby. So I've got my 50-22 multi, and Phil's got his 40-20 multi. So we both picked 2 legs, $50 multi on. He's gone for Tuapiki anytime try scorer this weekend into under 45.5 points in the Panthers-Sharks game, giving him $3.80. So he's got a massive lead on me at the moment. We've only been 2 weeks in. We both hit our first multis, and he had about $100 more return, and then he won last week's one. I lost last week, so he's up big at the moment. What do you think of that? Picky to score an under 40.5 points.
Well, I think the Warriors are going to win, and I think they'll win comfortably. So I think wingers obviously typically score some tries, but I think where you make your money, Charlie, is mostly looking at someone that doesn't score too many tries. Those middle players, I think Aaron Clark might be a little something for you if you chuck it out there. He's a strong runner close to the line. So I'd be looking at someone like those boys. Your back rowers, they're typically players that get over the line as well. So if you want to try and catch up, I know where you're trying to catch up. You have to run the risk sometimes.
Yeah, well, Aaron Clark's paying $5.50 for a try. He's not scored in his last 5 games.
Wade Egan, he's got some great sleight of hand, and he's put
$5.60.
When Adam was there, he put him into a few holes, and they play a style of football where they do hit a lot of short runners.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll take note of those. Are they some? So if you had a little bet on the NRLs for those games, are you allowed to bet on the league?
No, I'm not allowed to bet on the league. No. I won't be betting on the league, but I love just imagine. I love imagining. And it's much really harder for myself, to be honest, Charlie, as a person that obviously studies the game. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when you know it so much, you think this is just going to happen. It doesn't actually work like that. So a lot of people ask, "Oh, you play fantasy?" And I'm like, brother, I'll tell you what, I could pick the best team and still be bad at it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what ends up happening in the end is we I guess, stats. We look at their performances. We try and think where we can get these points and stuff like that. And it doesn't typically pay off. Someone that actually just goes, "Oh, I'm going to put him there because this week he's," you know what I mean? Like we overanalyze and look into things too much. So
you're invested into it,
so that's what actually happens, I feel like. So I'm better off just leaving it out of it and then just watching the game for what it is.
Yeah, putting an opinion out there, not what you think's going to happen.
Definitely.
Right?
And that's what I'm giving you. Just my opinions and thoughts on the way that they play the game.
Yeah, no, I like it, Adam. I've got my 50-22 multi, so Super Rugby specific to try and catch up to Phil. I've got Ricky Riccatelli for the Blues up against my Hurricanes to score any time. I think if they're rolling all off the line out, him under at hooker. I feel like he can dot down this weekend and over 62.5 points in the Force versus Reds game. The Force have scored 45 points in both their opening games. The Reds got 56 on Moana last week.
Crazy that those score lines, Charlie, for me, when I saw those score lines, I'm like, what's going on? What have they changed in the game while everyone's scoring more points? But you're right with your bets. It's typically your hookers at the back of like Moors or rucks and stuff that are close to the line that typically normally get a lot of tries, and you must be pretty safe there.
So hopefully, even if Phil gets a win here, I think I'm making about $100 of inroads if I get my multi up as well. So I'll close that gap up a little bit. I've got Auckland FC to win as my absolute lock for the weekend.
Easy.
Why not? And in the cricket, Rachin Ravindra, he's back for the Black Caps, and he was back with a bang last game out against Bangladesh. He had 100 in his return.
Going after it.
He's playing India, which is, I believe he was born in India.
Yep.
So for him to be top run scorer in the game against India, $13 is where I'm going.
Beautiful. I guess if you're looking at form, pretty much what I said about the rugby league and my guesses for round one, if you go off purely form and I said trials, then there's definitely a chance that he's just gonna back it up, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. He's had 100 on debut at the World Cup, his World Cup debut last year in India. So he likes to score runs in India. He's in Pakistan this time, but against India. So I like him to do it again.
Done your research, Charlie. Beautiful.
Yep. And then last one, I've been doing a bit of a ladder challenge at the moment. So I start with $10. I turned it into $19, and then I turned my 19 into 38. So I just keep rolling it over. So my third bet for the ladder challenge, and I'm glad you said you like the Warriors, because it was going to be based on how you kind of analyze that game. But I've got the Warriors minus 2.5, so to win by 3 or more at $1.90 for my $38 into $72.90.
Not bad. That's not a bad one.
So hopefully we can keep that rolling over, and I move into week 4.
Beautiful. Why not?
And then just to finish, Adam, we've obviously had a chat about each of the teams and their round ones, but I ended up doing 10 questions for you. We'll see if we can do an under 60 seconds, but it's just a bit of an outlook on the season.
Cool.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. 2 teams playing in the grand final. Who are they?
Newcastle Knights and the Brisbane Broncos.
And who wins?
Newcastle Knights.
Biggest overachieving team?
Overachieving, it's mostly going to be Parramatta.
Parramatta, all right. The biggest letdown team. I feel like I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Roosters.
And that leads into them being the Wooden Spooners as well for question 5?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Question 6, top try scorer?
Top try scorer is going to be, I'm trying to think quickly. I'm going to say Khan Pereira from the Titans.
Yeah.
I think he got it last year.
Yeah, I think he did actually.
Yep. So I think Khan will get it again. Yep.
Dally M.
Dally M's going to be Adam Fanua-Blake.
Nice. Biggest breakout star?
Biggest breakout star, I think Fletcher Sharp for the Newcastle Knights.
Fletcher Sharp, who's looking sharp. The most impactful new signing?
I think it's definitely going to be Adam Fanua-Blake.
And then last one, Vegas, beyond the 5 years, is it going to keep being a thing, do you think?
Oh, I'm having a wild guess. Yes.
All right. Well, that's all I've got for you, Adam.
Awesome, Charlie.
So I'll take notes of all those. I've got my little 9-leg multi for round 1. We've got our bets on, both Phil and I. So if you are going to have a follow along, they'll be on our Bet Social profiles. Adam, once again, thanks for joining me, mate. Appreciate your time and look into round 1.
Awesome, brother. Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate you hanging around and having a chat, man.
Yeah, no, it's full on, but happy to make it work for you.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate your time, and we will be back next Tuesday. Phil, he might be back in. Who knows?
Might miss his plane.
The Warriors win, and yeah, we'll catch you then.
Awesome.